If you're watching this in the UK, you're likely to be familiar with the phrase, our home is our castle. It's a phrase used particularly in England for hundreds of years, and it reflects the fact that we really care about the work, time, effort and energy we place into both buying and maintaining the places we live. After all, think about the memories we create in the places we live with the people we love. If my experience is anything to go by, I'd suggest that that's quite a lot of memories. That's why for many of us, me included, there's a real reticence to change where we live, particularly when we're going through change in other aspects of our lives. But here's the thing. The right home for us changes over time. And I'm having a lot more conversations with experts on what happens next and clients where changing their homes, particularly for something a bit smaller, is something they are and should be considering as a sensible step in their financial plan, but also their life plan. My suggestion, the move towards downsizing your home isn't right for everybody, but it's something people should consider when thinking about the next chapter of their lives. Even if it's not right for today, it's something to factor in for the future. So in this video, I want to talk about the 5 F's you should consider when downsizing. And as I like to add a bit of ancient philosophy to all of my What Happens Next videos, the 3 Stoic lessons we should consider when thinking about changing where we live and potentially downsizing. Welcome to What Happens Next. It's interesting. One of the factors that some of my clients like to think about when they're building their financial plan is whether downsizing and having an influx of cash into their financial plan through downsizing should be a factor they consider. Now, I think actually there's a number of factors we need to think about and talk about when we're considering downsizing. And some of those I want to talk about today. However, before we get to the factors that you should certainly consider when you're thinking about downsizing, let's look at the ancient wisdom and what the Stoics used to say about whether downsizing or moving home later in life was a good idea. You see, the Stoics know that despite the Brits loving our homes and thinking that's our most valuable resource, the Stoics knew that that wasn't the case. Because they knew that the most finite resource is the most valuable. And that's our time. Often when I'm having conversations with clients, a larger home later in life takes up more of their time doing things they don't actually want to do. Now, you might love gardening and you spend loads of time in a large garden. That's great. But if that work becomes a burden, then that garden might not work for you. And for a lot of my clients, that applies to cleaning and maintaining their homes too. A larger home means that more time is taken up, potentially gardening, cleaning and maintaining your home. Because ultimately, if your house becomes less of a castle and more of a time-consuming burden, now might be the right time to think about whether it's right to downsize. You see, the Stoics were also a fan of a simpler life. And that often meant less stuff. And we know as our homes grow, we tend to accumulate more stuff. However, the evidence about money and spending it is clear. The more experiences and investing in others is a better route to use that money to buy happiness than just more stuff. So the Stoics were right that a simpler, less busy materially life is actually potentially the route to higher levels of financial well-being. So downsizing, reducing the amount of stuff we've got in our life might be a great way, according to the Stoics, of having more tranquility. And there's an interesting modern book on the subject, Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life with Less, by Josh Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. It's a clarion call to readers to get rid of their stuff they don't need and focus on what's truly important in their lives. Now, I don't personally subscribe to Josh and Ryan's very extreme version of minimalism. Effectively, they sold everything and lived out their car. However, there is an argument to say that a simpler life with less stuff potentially generates more well-being. And the book was a really interesting perspective on why that might be. So, if we're thinking about downsizing, what considerations should we factor in when we're thinking about what happens next? Number one, I think, is friendship and community. I've spoken a lot on what happens next, about the importance of friendships and community when we're thinking about the next chapter of our life. And as I write this, the video we did a couple of weeks ago on loneliness in later life and what we can do about it is one of our most popular videos on what happens next. It's got thousands of views. That tells me potentially it's something we need to think about, something people are thinking about, and something we need to talk about more when we're thinking about when we're in our 50s and 60s and friendships at work are changing because you're moving away from that particular environment, what we do to fill that gap. Now, moving home can make a difference when it comes to social connections, but it can also mean a fresh start. And that's why the impact on our social lives and community connections is a factor worth considering when we're thinking about moving home. Because lack of social well-being tends to have a negative impact that is a bit of a pebble in a pond. It spreads out to our physical health, happiness, and other aspects of our lives. The good news is that there's stuff we can do, even if we move out of an area where our friends and community is, to thrive socially. The shortest tip I can give about this, if you do move out of an area and downsize where your friends and community aren't, is join a club. And I spoke a lot about this on the video I did on loneliness, which is currently one of our most popular on What Happens Next. And I'll put a link in the comments below. Now, I'd love for you to get access to all our free resources of What Happens Next, because we've got 3 ways that you can benefit from What Happens Next for free. The first one is to get on the waiting list for the book, because in early 2026, we're going to be publishing a book designed to help people like you and you live better lives when they're going through periods of change in their 50s and 60s. Secondly, you can join the What Happens Next Inner Circle, a community designed to help you get regular insights into what you should think about when you're navigating change in this period of your life. And lastly, if you're thinking about your well-being and making a shift in how you balance your time, let me suggest you take our What Happens Next quiz, which again, you can find a link to in the comments. Hopefully that's useful, and let's get back to the video. The second factor you need to consider is financial, because downsizing can have a decently positive impact on your financial well-being. And I know that because some of my clients are going to be reliant on the value in their properties later in their lives and will aim to downsize to make sure they continue to live the lives they want. That's not the only option, of course, and if you've got a gap in your financial plan, a lifetime mortgage so you can stay in your current home might be the route you choose to take if you've got a gap in your plan, but there are other factors to think about. After all, in a smaller property, the bills might be cheaper, and in a smaller property, you might spend less money or time both cleaning and maintaining the house and the garden. The reality is, a smaller home often results in lower costs, which have a potentially positive impact on your bottom line. There are financial downsides of potentially downsizing. However, the big one is the cost of moving. You've got estate agents' costs and legal fees and stamp duty and moving costs, which potentially erode the amount of money that gets added to the pot when you downsize, and that's worth factoring too. My third F to factor in when you're thinking about downsizing is fun. When I look at the advantages of downsizing, I consider all the fun you could potentially have with the time you save whilst maintaining a larger home. However, I also look at your location, where your current home and new home potentially are, because that's going to be a major factor when it comes to fun. After all, is there things that you want to do that you enjoy close to where you live now and close to the place you're potentially looking to move to? If you enjoy being in nature, how accessible is nature where you live now? And how accessible is it in the place that you're considering downsizing to. If you like an exercise class particularly, is there an exercise class of the type you like near your new home? And if you intend to join a club like Rotary or University at the Third Age, is there a local chapter near you today or near where you're looking to downsize? All of those factors are worth considering when thinking about where you move and whether these places are close to the activities you consider fun. My fourth factor is facilities, and I'd consider the facilities you need both in and outside your home. For example, is the home you're looking to downsize to near a gym, a pub, shops, restaurants, and other stuff that you want to spend your time doing? Is your current home or the home you're looking to downsize into got the space and amenities you need to live the next chapter of your life? If you want people to come and stay, has your new home got that? If this is a priority, it might not be, by the way, but it's important to consider. Has the area you're moving into got decent transport links? So even if you're not living near the amenities you enjoy, you can travel to them really quickly. All of these factors are definitely worth considering when thinking about where you're living now and where you're going to live potentially if you downsize. And the fifth, and arguably for many of us, most important factor is family. One of the most interesting balances I find clients making is the desire for independence, both in money and time, but also the desire to be close enough to spend quality time with the people they love and like. So when thinking about moving and downsizing, how close are you going to be to the people you love and like? Also, when you move, is it going to have an impact on your support network, but also the people you support? Some of my clients look after their grandkids and love that experience, and moving would have a negative impact on the ability to do that. So, whilst downsizing might financially be a positive move in the right direction, I hope you agree that there's a number of other factors to consider when thinking about whether it's the right move for you. I spoke in this video about the relationship between money and happiness, and this video will help you explore a bit more about that, what the science says about that relationship. And in this video, I explore the impact of loneliness on our later lives when it comes to thinking about the importance of friendships. Hopefully that was useful, and we'll see you on the channel soon.